Welcome to ORM's coverage of the Obstacle Course Racing World Championship. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me is Bracken Crocker. Bracken, are you ready to see some killer racing today, man?
Dave, that intro package just captured it all. There is no feeling and energy like the OCR World Championships, from the athletes to the obstacles to the pure atmosphere of that mountain village there. It's electric.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like the weather's drying out too. It looks like it's going to be beautiful. I can't wait to see these guys on course. And we're going to be starting with the men. We're going to start with the men's 3K. Now, we may be a little delayed on time, but let's just see if we can get one of our rabbits here and see how things are looking out on the course.
This 3K is a unique beast. When you think 3K in short course, you think flat, you think fast. Well, there's going to be some fast here, but it starts with a 3 to 5 minute climb up 15 to 20% incline, which is, as you can see, these open waivers here hiking it. This is less than a 2-mile race and they're walking. So that is a significant incline to start the day. And right away, it kind of removes the fastest athletes have their ability of just running away from everyone taken from them. And now it's back to a grindy OCR race once we hit the top.
Yeah, even though this is short, will you still have guys blow up? I mean, maybe not so much in the pros. Will you still have people blow up on that run, just coming out way too fast?
I think you're going to have more people blow up in this than the 15K. This is the kind of race that it's so fast. People know it's going to be, 17 to 21 minutes, somewhere in that range for the win. Most likely right around 18 or 19. It's such a short race compared to what people are used to that they are going to push. And it's that fine line of tipping over is reached so much more quickly in a short race like this. So I guarantee we see half the field blow up.
Now, if we go through this, there we go. If we go through this, our obstacles here, why don't we go through just a quick course on the map there, if we can pull up the map. All right. First off, we're going to have hurdles, and we'll just go through hurdles, very basic, shin-high hurdles, nothing too fancy from there. From there, we're going to hit confidence climb, which is like a form of a wall climb. Gorilla rope traverse. Again, that's going to be a lot of ropes just traversing horizontally. And then I think really you're going to get to the first obstacle that could cause issue, and that's Skitch. How do you feel they should approach Skitch?
Well, I think that Skitch will already be one obstacle late for when the race starts. I think it starts at gorilla ropes. It's so simple, but it requires actual focus, and everyone's going to be gasping after what's essentially a fast 3 to 4 minute blowout start. And you're going to see people fall off the gorilla ropes immediately just trying to make a move. And so we're going to see people already spread out coming in to that next obstacle. And then decisions are already going to have to be made. Do I make a foolish / maybe risk reward decision here to try to make up ground because I already lost a little early on? And that's where we're going to start to see failures and people start to dig themselves a hole.
And what you're seeing right now is this is a great shot of the festival area. And here we can actually see some people going across. That's Pendulum right there. And you can see we have a low ring to a high ring, then to a angled horizontal pole. This is another spot later in the race where you're going to see some of the higher end people with really good obstacle efficiency make up some time. At that point, Bracken, how would you think you'd be approaching at that point? Would you be taking it easy, or are you going to go for it?
I mean, it depends whether you're hanging on or trying to make moves. You're going to see people like Aaron Newell, VJ Jones come in with a flying mount. They'll skip at least the first ring, if not the first two, grab the second, try to leap off that to halfway down the pipe and get off that as quickly as possible. And other people are going to come out and have to shake their hands out before they even approach the obstacle because they're already going to be trashed. So in this one, when it comes to cardio, like the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer, and they may not even have the decision to attack at the end.
And as we were talking about, here's your gorilla traverse. So this is just your horizontal rope traverse. Now, yeah, I would think on this, I'm thinking you could maybe see some people jump out, keep the feet in tight, and actually just use no legs whatsoever.
Yeah, this is one that everyone's done this obstacle before and won in some form or fashion. But no one's ever, as far as I know, had to complete this 3 minutes into an 18-minute race. where you have to make a decision on what's the fastest way to go through this. Because usually this is a get through it efficiently and save my grip and don't tear up my Achilles kind of obstacle. Having to hit this fast means that they're going to have to make technique decisions on the fly, which always leads to people fumbling around.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see these gentlemen going through it right now, and they're using all this very, very safe technique. I think we may see people like VJ and Aaron really go for it on this, because it is still going to be close racing at this time for sure. You just need to come out that climb.
If you wanted to, you could jump out, tuck your knees up, and ape swing hand over hand across this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
VJ is a bit tall for that. If Logan were here in time for this race, this is one he could try something like that on.
And I'll be like, if I was doing this one, because I'm just, I should be. But anyway, I would jump out for this, and I would swing my outside leg across and do the immediate turnaround, and then hand over hand to the end and swing off. It might not be as efficient as the full tuck, but you would be safer and still be very quick.
And see, I'd be sitting in this. I have no muscle memory trying to do this fast. I would probably just approach backwards, reach as far as I could, and then try to skitter as fast as possible. But I would be one of those athletes coming off of this already in a deficit of time because I lost 2 or 3 seconds by not having an aggressive technique, which would bring me to the next obstacle, knowing I have to now make take a chance and make a decision that maybe isn't as safe. And that's where we're going to start to see big issues.
And this would be the only spot where I would gain 3 seconds on you to make up for the 90 minutes you gain on me on the run. Here we have our Valkyrie. This is classic from last year. And this one here is, yes, there's some technique in the swing, but you got to use a lot of strength. You need that pull-up power, or it's going to be a long day.
You do. And this is, I think, one of the toughest parts of this for the pro wave. For the open wave, the toughest part is moving uphill from ring to ring, obviously. For the pro wave, I think the toughest part is that these aren't that far apart, and they're very tempting to skip. And they need to be skipped. But which ones you skip and how far you reach is the problem, because one little overreach, there's a bit of water on these obstacles this morning, and you're going to be really, really gasping. One little overreach leads to a redo, which is the end of a lot of people's race.
Yeah, in this 3K, right? I mean, we talk about taking chances, and in the 15K, you know, to fail once and redo is probably not going to be the end of the world. But in this 3K, you are going to, a failure and a retry is going to be the end of you.
Yeah, I can imagine someone coming. This is a downhill launch to this obstacle. If you came down, ducked your head, jumped off that metal bar, you could reach out to the 3rd, maybe the 4th ring, and leap straight across to its counterpart on the opposite side. You could get through this theoretically only touching 2 rings. But the plant on the slippery wet metal and then having to keep your head ducked underneath the bar, it just means that only someone who's really, really in control of their body in the air could pull something like that off. And I mean, the reward is that you save 5 seconds. The risk is that you lose 15 having to restart the obstacle.
The other thing I find with this one is one of the scary spots. You can save a lot of time on the downway coming back down the other side, but that's where you often get a little miss and just whiff on that bell.
Yeah, and we're going to see this on the female race. This seems to be where you look at some of the other races like Savage Race, where a lot of females will make it to the very end and then just come up a little short because they just have less wingspan than the men, where the men can make that a safer grab from higher up. A lot of the women get stuck in between that safe grab in having to make 2 more handholds and get way too close to the bell. And getting caught in between, sometimes you see that last minute drop when they've really completed the whole rig, they just don't get the bell.
Now we see that we're getting just word from Cody that in the earlier waves, they were stating that you must reach the apex of the rings. And that's kind of interesting because I remember back in 2019, some people trying to do the big lache right across without hitting it. I don't know. I never saw anyone successful at it, but I know many people tried. So it's a different take on it. And I think that more is in the spirit of the obstacle.
That you should reach the top, or that you don't need to?
That you should reach the top. I mean, I have a bit of a ninja background for me, so I like those exciting laches, and kind of if you can do it, you can do it. That's great, but I don't think that's what they're after for this one.
Okay, and I guess I'd be the opposite camp. That the purpose of an obstacle is to get through it, and any way through, get it.
It's okay for you to be wrong once in a while, Bracken. That's fine.
But that's the beauty of this, right? Because if they don't make the obstacle have specific rules, then people like you and I are going to get there with different mentalities of how to get through. And in the 15K, it's about survive and advance. In the 3K, it's about get through at any cost necessary with as little time as possible.
Absolutely. And here we have our boy Matt B. Davis on the ground. Finally, Matt, what is it like in the festival area?
Hey, buddy, you guys are doing a great job. It's awesome here. I want to get a heads up. We got people yelling. I want to get a heads up on our start up here. So I'm going to give you an update here in a couple minutes. So go ahead and mute me while I walk up here, and I'll see how far behind it is so we can get an estimated start time for those pro men.
Sounds good.
See, they're handing out free chocolate at the festival area today.
So as Matt said there, we are running on OCR time, so we are a little behind at they are a little behind with some of the start waves. And Thomas there saying Bracken's right, efficiency should be rewarded. And that seems to actually be a theme this year, where they try to design a lot of the obstacles to reward risk-taking. And I think we've seen that, greetings to Lithuania, we've seen that in the releases of Pendulum, of Ricochet, and actually now might not be a bad time to take a quick look at one of the releases of one of the other obstacles. Why don't we take a look at Ricochet and see exactly how this obstacle can be done? And it's just that easy. Matt, have we got word on what's going on?
Momentarily. I will say that probably at least 20, but just give me a second here, buddy. Okay, I'll be right back.
No problem.
Dave, that was a beautiful obstacle walkthrough, and I love a few things about it. First of all, it subverts the typical OCR rules, which is you may not use any part of the structure for assistance.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it suddenly says, no, we're going to make the structure part of it, and there's going to be a huge technique component to it.
Yeah, and I mean, named well, Ricochet is exactly what it is. You bouncing off the walls. I think it's a great design, and it took a simple obstacle being rings and completely turned it on its head.
It did.
Look at right now, this is Canyon, and you can see someone right now attempting the figure 4 technique coming across.
It's a smart technique. Using your arms for your legs is beautiful, but this is where it comes into problem, where the transition point. You're really stable and locked in, but when you have to turn in transition, now you're in trouble.
Now, I don't think we need to say exactly where this obstacle is going to cause people issues. That is super low to the ground.
Yeah, size is not rewarded here, nor is lack of practice. And who has time to practice this or the location to practice this? You're either lucky enough to live somewhere like this, or you're lucky enough to have developed superior body control in the air. Back to Ricochet for a second, though, Dave. The second thing I love about that tutorial he showed was that it confirms that what we talked about earlier, that rich get richer, poor get poorer. People who have the grip strength and the technique to be able to move through with a bit more of a risk-taking, constant momentum, you saw how much easier it was to make those long gap transitions. Whereas people who did not have the ability to stay on the rings with confidence had to spend more time on the rings and then had to take really costly, long risks in order to even get to the next one.
I wonder, is this maybe this, so looking at Canyon again right now, and I totally agree with you, everything about Ricochet there. Do you think this may be the one obstacle that could cause somebody like BJ, who is very tall, an issue?
Yes, Yeah, this is set up to be bad for someone with his frame. I believe that he is ready for it, but at the same time, if you had to design something on paper to frustrate or slow him, this is it. You make him get low to the ground.
Absolutely. Matt, do we have a time going?
We do. We have an official starting time now of 12:45 for the men. That's 12:45 for the pro men's wave, which means the women will be 30 minutes after that. I would like to let my gimbal team way up at the top there know, because our radios got stuck at the border, that they can turn their gimbals off, stay in the feed with us, but save battery on those gimbals and keep it off until let's say when the thing starts at 12:45. But go ahead and keep shooting. They can get some men on obstacles up there, some women on obstacles. But the official start time, you're going to want to remind folks as they hop in the next 5 minutes, what's happening, that at 12:45. Would you like to see anything else while I'm down here in the festival?
Bracken?
Yeah, find the coolest obstacle you have there, and let's get some eyes on age groupers going through the tricky stuff.
Okay. Also, I just want to remind everybody that if you really like Bracken, I did not know. Yeah, you can keep it on there while I'm talking. People love Bracken. No offense to me and you, Dave, but people are like, I just want to hear Bracken's voice. Is he doing the feed? So, there you go. Look at that. Genius. Look at that. Graphics. We're amazing. So people love Bracken. So whatever you're doing, Bracken, keep doing it.
I feel there's a punchline coming, Matt.
There's not. I'm telling you. Those people last night were like such big Bracken fans.
Well, I love it. I love the support. And honestly, I'm a face made for radio. So let's keep them focused on the voice.
Let me ask you a question. Bracken.
Mm-hmm.
It's drying out. Sun isn't out, but it's definitely drier. Who do you think it helps or hurts that it's not going to be the sloppy course we thought?
Well, it hurts all the absolutely monster grip athletes. So I would look at some of the Noob Sanity athletes. I would look at some of the local ninja-based runners who can do anything in any condition under the sun. And they may not have the advantage on some of the more pro CR athletes in terms of speed, but they are definitely going to make up ground on anything that is technical or sloppy. Well, you remove the sloppy, and it's just one less place for them to make up ground.
Yeah, you're bang on the money there, man. Like this, I was thinking about this before, and definitely obstacle technicians would totally.
Pro men aren't going for another 20 minutes, so
salivating at the wet course, right? And knowing that the people who are maybe the pure runners were going to struggle even more on these difficult obstacles. It was just like, yes, another advantage. And yeah, but then you have someone like VJ who is just equally strong on both.
Yeah, it's a shame when you have an embarrassment of riches like VJ does, where he might be the smoothest through obstacles. There are a few people here who are probably faster or better through obstacles, but he is insanely smooth through there. But he's also the best runner in the field. And so there's not a lot of place to make up ground on him. But behind him, there's a whole group of people who have very diverse and definite skill sets. And there were some people here who, when they saw the weather report, were praying for rain. And other people who were praying that the rain stops and misses.
So you say VJ has that embarrassment of riches. If you're in this race, because this is not out of the realm of you being in this race, what would be your tactic to try to unseat him? Would you attack early? Would you try to just stay on his heels? What would be your plan?
Well, I've been in this situation, right? We were at Blue Mountain for this exact race several years back, and Hunter was here, Ryan Woods. I believe we had Ryan Atkins, Angel Quintero, just a bunch of different style of athletes, and we all made the same mistake. We all decided to try to break everyone else and re-raise their raise on every climb or descent, and we all forgot about the fact that this is a time trial. And so the way to beat VJ is to run your absolute best race and hope that he screws up. But if you try to run his race or you try to take him out of his race, all you're going to do is blow up. And then you won't hit your fastest time.
Yeah, that whole start does put a completely different spin on it. I would think that this is just one of those ones, like you say, where you got to go, all right, hold on, we got a little tip from Matt here. Who do we got, Matt?
Look who it is.
Oh, hey, that's us.
It's Lindsay Webster.
A nervous Lindsay.
She says she's a little bit nervous. Anything you want to ask her, Bracken?
No, I'm going to let her get locked into the race here. I love the fact that she's nervous. She's done everything she could possibly do in the sport. And this type of atmosphere at this race, it gets everyone. And that's why this race is so special.
All right, go race.
Okay. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Back to you guys.
Talk to you.
So back to your question, what can you do to beat VJ? You have to do everything you do well and don't even look at the man. That's how good he is. You just don't even worry about his race whatsoever because this is clock-based. It is not position-based.
Well, we have another obstacle up on the screen here, and this is Skitch. So how would you run through your technique through Skitch? We see a lot of the ladies struggling here, and then some other ones really looking very solid.
Yeah, it is all about your launch, and then it is all about transitioning that energy when your launch begins to slow. So if we watch a couple of these women come up here, the ones who know what they're doing are really going to kick off the edge. But then that momentum kind of dies out about halfway. And you have to transition over that hanging rope there or the chain link because your Skitch grip there has to be removed over it. And so it's just 2 points. It's your initial launch and then it's your transition and keeping energy moving. If you stall out here, you're in trouble.
Now, I'm seeing two different techniques again. We're seeing straight arms, we're seeing bent arms. I know personally what I prefer. Do you see an advantage to both techniques or just one over the other? The other thing about this is in this particular scenario, this obstacle is slightly downhill. So yes, you can really get a good slide on it, but that might give yourself a shock when you get to that middle and be unprepared for that sudden stop.
Yeah, we saw this a few years ago with even more downhill, and you were able to make a lâcher of sorts and bypass that and land if you had the hand-eye coordination to do it. But I think that if you are going, that woman right there just nailed it. And that's exactly what I think is the best technique. You have to sacrifice some bicep and back energy right here. You just got to grip it and rip it. Pull yourself up above 90. Keep those things right under your chin so that you can make quick, fast adjustments. It's way more taxing, but you don't stall out that way. When you hang down, you get to that transition point and you have really no way to generate good power.
Now, when you look at a map, right, you're a great runner. And when you look at the course maps and you study them beforehand, you pick out where I'm going to be able to kick, where I need to save speed, what I need to do in what's different scenario. When you look at the maps for obstacles, do you do the same thing? And maybe you look at Skitch here and you think, all right, this is a spot where I'm going to need that bicep. And you try to save it for that point.
Absolutely. There are obstacles here where you swing and there are obstacles where you lock off at 90. And you have to save that lock off strength as much as possible. You know, you're going to need it at that low ring as well, because there's no way to even for someone, you know, of my height, there's no way to get through it unless you're locked off. So you have to know I have 2 or 3 obstacles where I'm locking off. And then other than that, I've got to stay extended as much as possible. All
right. I think Matt's got us a quick interview here.
Ida.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Oh my God, I'm feeling excited. A tiny bit nervous, I must admit, but mostly excited. Yeah.
Late start. How's your pre-workout going?
Well, it's working now, you know. So right now I'm really energized, but I mean, 15 minutes it'll be fine. So the legs feel really good, so that's nice. I did most of my warm-up. Just gonna do a bit more, so I'm ready for it. And the biceps are warmed up. Gonna use them today. That's my plan.
All right, I want to let you go do your thing. What do you want to say to all the folks all over the world and back home?
I want to give a big shout out to like all the European athletes. I know that they really wanted to be here, so I'm just really grateful that I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna represent you all, and I'm just really excited for this weekend. So thank you for everybody being so nice and cheering for me at home.
All right, go race, Ida.
Yeah, I will.
Back to you.
That right there is the most exciting athlete this weekend to me. She is the one I believe that has the biggest ability to upset the champion, the reigning champ. And she is incredibly, incredibly well suited to this style of course. She to me she's the race to watch right there. Can she take it to the Queen of OCR, Lindsay Webster?
Yeah, Ida's her obstacle proficiency is so solid that if she can hang with Lindsay on the run, especially on that climb, it's going to be a very interesting finish.
Yes, and I would say that Lindsay has to be thrilled about the fact that this is an uphill and then downhill 3K. And I think that Ito is thinking, I really, really hope that these European style obstacles, which is what I would consider OCRWC, this is our taste of Europe each year, play to her strengths more than the hills play to Lindsay's strength.
Do you think Ida is almost disappointed to see the rain stop?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Lindsay is fantastic at obstacles, but she isn't one of those women. I wouldn't say she's a Nicole Miracle who comes up, takes chances, and just gracefully blows through the obstacle. She is methodical about her obstacles. And because of that, she is susceptible to moves being made on obstacles. And Ida is the type of athlete who will push the envelope on obstacles.
We've got a great question here from Thomas Peterson. I'll read it. I wonder, is sloppy surface specifically for the ground an advantage or disadvantage for the fast runners? Only talking running like VJ and Sean. So does the sloppy ground, will that help them or will that hinder them?
Great question. Typically, yes, it hurts them and it brings the field closer together. Everyone is kind of watered down the more technical the ground gets. But on this type of terrain, I mean, you've raced in this area. I've raced in this area. There's a lot of grass and it's pretty much straight up and down. It's not the most technical of ascents or descents. And with the type of footwear these guys are all bringing to the table, I don't anticipate it's much of a problem. The problem is going to come from if they have to put their hands on the ground ever and they get soaked.
Now, we haven't talked a lot about individual athletes in this, but the mention there of Sean Roberts. Sean Roberts being very new to the OCR scene, but has proven himself in Savages. How do you think this is a big jump for him? How do you figure he's going to fare at something like this?
I think this is the safest big jump he can make because he came out to his first Savage. He showed he can run. He came out to his second Savage and showed he knew how to run up and downhill. And in every Savage he's done, which is a grip intensive race, he's made it through everything. He didn't even have much technique at the beginning because he was so new to the sport, but he had the strength and agility to get through every single obstacle on his first try. So I think in terms of jumping from regional races to world races, this is the safest one.
Now, I tend to agree. I would be more concerned for him on the 15K where there are actually some more technical obstacles.
Correct.
And if it was wetter, I think his grip strength has been shown severely. But yet I haven't seen him move as fluidly through the rigs and through the obstacles as some of the more experienced guys like a Kempson, like a VJ, like an Aaron Newell.
Yeah, and that's the thing we don't know about him yet is how intensely he prepares for this. Clearly, he takes his running seriously. Clearly, he takes his strength and his fitness seriously. But does he go out there and do the specific technical nature-based training required to go through obstacles that he's never seen before? Because there are principles that apply to all obstacles. You only need to know about 5 or 6 core basic movements through these rigs to get through anything. And the question is, has he been to a ninja gym? Has he been to an obstacle training facility? Or is he building his fitness kind of more in a lab-based setting where he doesn't see those extraneous factors?
We had a quick question on their thoughts on gloves. Do you think anyone will be wearing gloves in the elite field? Now, I have lots of thoughts on gloves, Bracken. I'm almost like a glove guy, like you're a shoe guy.
Okay.
But I'm interested to see what you have to say first.
I think as probably the pro, and I say pro in quotes because I think those years were in the past, as the pro racer who has worn gloves in more races than probably anyone else in the field, I would say this is the wrong time for gloves. But every single minute this race is delayed, it becomes more the right time for gloves. Gloves, especially wide receiver gloves, football gloves, are a fantastic help on obstacles. But if the obstacles are wet, they do not help you one bit.
Dude, that's just bang on the money. In a race like this and in wet conditions, I would consider wearing a glove for protection on, say, lots of wooden walls or structures like that, things that can damage your hands in the process. But I would be removing them for any technical obstacles, so I'd have the skin grip as things are wet. But as things dry out and get hot, that's when your hands are going to peel and tear on warm obstacles, and that's where, like you say, your wide receiver gloves can definitely play into play.
Yeah, and so for a 15K tomorrow, I'd probably be having gloves on course. Yeah. It's such a long day, and we have seen so many high-level athletes have their day ended because they just ripped their hands to shreds. And even though most of them, like, it's not a pain thing for most of them, it's just the fact that their hands keep bleeding. And that's the blood is incredibly slippery. The fact of the day, blood is slippery, and it makes it very difficult to get through obstacles like that when your hands are pussing and bleeding. And so I would personally be starting with them because my hands are not bulletproof. But you have time in a 15K to make a judgment call on to remove your gloves before obstacles or not. In the 3K, there is no time, and so you've got to get through with only what you bring to the table with just bare skin hands.
So we got another question here. And again, you're bang on the money. I hate agreeing with you so much, Bracken. It's kind of annoying, actually. But when you're right, sadly. Thoughts on Leon for the 3K? Height plays well for Canyon, and he'll be great in the wet.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to disagree with me here then.
Okay.
I'm going to say Leon is going to be a contender to snag that third podium spot.
Really?
Listen, I've come off knee surgery. I have a soft spot in my heart for people rehabbing. Now, I know I said this about Aaron Newell. I know where I was in my leg rehab after surgery, so I know he is not right. I know even if he's healthy, I know he's not himself. However, I've seen some semi-promising results from him recently overseas, and I believe that his technical acumen and the shortness of this course gives him a puncher's chance in this field.
Yeah, you're right. I am going to disagree with you. I love Leon, and I think he's definitely one of my favorites, and I love that he is a specialist on the short courses, and his obstacle acumen is beyond belief. He may be one of the best out there. However, I don't think he has the confidence in his running. If this was a flat course, then maybe I'd agree with you. But with the hill, and especially the coming down the hill, I don't think he'll be willing to push it that hard. I think he might be able to, but I don't think he's willing to. I think he's just not mentally prepared and over the injury that way to be able to push that hard.
Listen, you're 100% right. He had a pretty catastrophic knee injury. And the last thing to come back with me was my confidence bombing down sketchy terrain. Yeah. Even once I was physically able to handle it, my belief in the ability to handle it was the last thing to come around. However, being a 3K race, if he loses 1 minute going up and down the mountain, I believe, other than maybe against the top two guys, he can take 40-ish seconds back on the obstacles by being faster than any other human through them.
Well, I hope you're right and I'm wrong, because again, I'm a giant Leon fan, so hopefully it's right. What do we got here? Do we think Aaron Newell has recovered enough to put up a fight against Ryan Brizzolara?
Okay, so here's the big question, Stephen A., and that is Ryan Brizzolara truly here? We did not have him on our start list. If he's here, he replaces Leon as I think he takes second or third in this race. Ryan Brizzolara, I believe, is the real deal, but it's also our first chance to see him against the other people who we know are the real deal. And Aaron, I'm going to echo what I say for Leon, but he's a little bit ahead of him. He's not back to himself yet, but he's so good on obstacles. And he is certainly a better mountain runner than flat runner. So both of those guys I would put in the same breath, where if we have VJ out ahead, then we're going to see a combination of Aaron, Leon, and Ryan chasing some people down, trying to be that next.
And we're getting a lot of Ryan is here, so that will definitely make it interesting. I will go to bat a little bit for the Aaron camp, and that I have seen Aaron run firsthand recently, and he looked very good and very calm and very confident. Well, Aaron never doesn't look confident. And his obstacles game is bang on. So I think it could be a very tight race between those two, and that it will be very entertaining. I hope they end up side by side for a lot of those going in and out of a lot of those obstacles. That would be very entertaining.
Where I said Ida is my most exciting female to watch today, Ryan Brizzolara is my most exciting male to watch. I've got to watch him firsthand look like an absolute animal surrounded by slightly lesser animals. And now he's in the wilds here. There are some other animals. There are some studs here, and I finally get to see where he really stacks up.
And that's like hefty praise. So, I mean, a lot of people won't be as familiar with his name. What are some of his accomplishments? Where have you seen him really, really show up?
He's done back-to-back Savage races where he just dominated. And he has the look. There's just a look. You know how people say someone has it? Mm-hmm. Well, he has the OCR version of it, where he attacks an obstacle and looks strong and clean and effortless through. But the moment he lands, he starts running with purpose. And that can't be faked, especially throughout a 50 to 60 minute race. When on 45 minutes in, you're hitting the ground after another rig and getting right back to work with a purposeful, strong stride. That's the kind of characteristic that we see on people who come into the sport and they are the next thing. He just has those qualities.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we've taken a look at a lot of these obstacles. Why don't we take another look at another obstacle that is a new release this year? And we're talking about Pendulum. And Pendulum's another one, as this is drying out, that some of the guys can save some time. So if we can cue up that Pendulum video. He sure makes it look easy there, doesn't he?
He does. And again, great choice to show all three techniques. But that first one we saw, the leap, the lache, and then the second leap to the finish, we're going to see, I would guess, 3 or 4 people on each side try that. Again, you'll always see more men take chances because I think it's more in their nature and because of wingspan. But Aaron Newell will do that. Leon will do that. I don't know yet, Ryan Brizolara. I haven't seen him take chances. I've just seen him effortlessly power his way smoothly through rigs. So again, I'm excited. That's why I'm excited for him. He gets to showcase some skills on a course that rewards his skill type.
Now, see, that is one obstacle where I'm not sure Leon will take that chance because Leon's not a tall guy, and that is a good vertical leap right off the bat. Now, anything where it's coming from a swinging forming of lache, Leon will take chances all day long. But that one, I think he might actually grab that first ring and use it as a swing.
He might. You know what he has is he has something that I think I only see for the most part in wrestlers and like bantamweight, really lightweight fighters, where they have just blinding hand speed.
Oh yeah,
they're like almost like a squirrel, where every move they make, they just twitch and suddenly they're 10 feet away from where they were beforehand. And that's how he moves through obstacles. Some people grab a ring, pull back and swing to the next one. And he's doing the same thing, but he just moves so much faster. It's hard to describe. He just doesn't have any wasted movement on the obstacle. And he moves at a speed that kind of defies logic. And so he is the type of person that maybe can get away without a big lache and get through just as fast.
It is really one of my biggest disappointments that he is not 100% healthy for this one. I would have loved to see him go full bore against VJ and against Ryan and against Aaron. I think he would have been in it and definitely had a good crack at the podium.
I fully agree. I think that he was my pick for second. I mean, if we're saying assuming everyone's healthy, then I think it actually stays the same because Aaron Newell would be my pick for second as well. So I think, again, they're in the same boat, but he just has that ability where I look at someone like him and oftentimes I watch a great athlete and think I could do that in a vacuum. Like if I only had to run that portion of a race with them, I could absolutely match their skill set. I know for a fact that what he does during a race, I couldn't do in practice only trying that.
That's cool. Here we got Matt here.
Yeah,
Matt, how are we looking for the start?
Well, they said 12:45. It's 3 minutes to go, so maybe it's 1 or 2 minutes late. Looks like, is there a pre-race briefing going on over here?
Yeah, Adrian's chatting with them.
Looks like Adrian's chatting with them. Let's see if we can get a word.
And we had a little comment there a while ago. Yes, that Skitch is definitely downhill.
These are not the top guys.
What is with the barefoot coming through? Did you see that?
I missed that.
There were 2 guys at least, if not 3, that walked through barefoot.
Are we calling the first 8 to the front? Okay. Hey, you guys with me?
Yep.
Okay, so Justin Manning will be calling the first 8 waves to the first 8 men to the front. which is not these guys, but called here any moment.
Now, something interesting to start discussing is this time trial format, Dave, where we are going to send 8 men at a time and then 8 women at a time. But it is not first person across the finish line. It is your time. So there is someone like Orion Brizolara who was not in the entry list initially, and there's a good chance he does not make the first wave. And you know what that means is really absolutely nothing. And it just means that he gets a free run of the course and doesn't have to get caught up in tactics.
No, it almost gives him that chance where he is the chaser. He's trying to run people down, especially if it's not a big gap between heats.
Yeah. That said, I'd love to see him get bumped into that wave, make the first wave 9 if we can, because selfishly, I do want to see him perform against people.
So who are we seeing lined up so far?
Got Newell, we have VJ, we have Kempson. There's is that Matt Willis behind in there? Leon. Sean Roberts sighting.
Yeah.
Is Dustin Livingood running pro or age group today? He's another name that could sneak up in there. Ian Hosick.
Yeah, what do you want, man?
Leon looking light and ready.
They're going to call the first 8 men, and then you're going to go.
This has been 2 years in the waiting for a lot of us.
Yeah, and there are some people who have really focused their life around this event, VJ Jones being one of them. His entire focus last year was to win this race, and the race never occurred. So he's had 2 years of thinking about really nothing but this and planning specifically for this race.
I don't really.
You know, Kempson's been untalked about so far by us today.
And do you think that that's because maybe Kempson has had, by his standards, a bit of a flat year, I would call it? Not terrible, but not extraordinary.
Yeah, he didn't take the next leap forward like he has every single year up to this point because he finally had interrupted training. But I think it shows how good he truly is that he maybe had 80% training this year, and he's still been, I think, top 5 or 6 at every single major race this year against the best of the best.
Yeah, and he's another one we talked about that is, like I said, smooth, but not exceptional through the obstacles, where he's not gonna fail, but he's maybe gonna lose a couple of seconds to some of the higher end guys. But this terrain and this sloppy conditions, that favors his running, does it not?
It absolutely does. He's a gritty athlete who also is really flowy and exceptional to watch run. He has great mechanics, but he can also translate them to nasty terrain. I'd say Aaron Newell is the same way. He has a bouncy, strong stride, but he can also handle it through sloppy terrain. VJ as well. VJ has a smooth stride. He can also run broken terrain. So these guys kind of have that unicorn skill set.
Good morning and welcome to Shadow Mountain Resort here in Vermont, USA. Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos y buenos días. Shadow Mountain is Shadow Unidos for the 3-day Asian Championship of the day. This is day 1 of the The following waves has been designed, designated by the results in people contest. Behind me, this presentation is presented by Adventure in partnership with Red Bull, headed by Mr. Vichavada, your race director. The world. I have one more to one guide, as well as obstacle racing media. We are sponsored by 1% Advantage. Adventure. Hooray, protector is Wreck Bag, Red Bull, Mudgear, Rubber Bend, CBD, Hello Fresh, Hooray, Gorilla Ropes, and the Gray Shoes. Yeah! This is the main event, the co-main event of the day. That point has an elevation elevation of 1,181 meters, aka 3,875 feet, with a drop of 611 feet. Celebrate 50 years being recognized open as the Stratton Vermont Mountain. Please introduce yourself and let us know what country you're waiting from.
In America.
The enthusiasm of renewal.
America!
Brian. Ian Hosek.
Yeah, I'm over here.
Hi, Ian. Also America. Go checking in. There he is.
After you hear your name, step under the line.
After you hear your name, please step forward.
Under the
VJ.
line. Under.
Aaron. Ryan. Ian
Tell my guy to
Hosek.
step back.
Sean.
Now that guy is Alvaro, and he is also a legitimate athlete. So he's probably going to be in that second wave with Ryan Brizzolaro. And those two are going to get to go after it.
Leon. Go for it. Leon. Go for it. Heard of it, bro. Baseball ranking. Newbie. Jared. Newbie.
I wouldn't be shocked if there's a situation where Jarrett gives Ryan his spot. Although he might just hop up in here.
Is that Jared there?
Great, gentlemen. Oh, is it 9?
Alberto Vargas.
So Alvaro did get into the wave. So he's set up to run against the big dogs. And he's shown the ability to do so.
The world has checked 5 events on the deck. From the 4 corners of the globe to the starting crowd on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, the elite 3K men are. Ladies and gentlemen, count with me, counting down for 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the elite men. They pass kicked up there and set up.
And they're off, and it looks like Aaron is taking them out.
Second wave coming in.
Great job, buddy. Great job, buddy.
You don't know their names, you don't know their.
It's going to be very telling who's leading up here. There are a lot of men in this field who truly believe that they have the ability to upset VJ. He certainly is the top guy on paper, but in such a short race, there's always confidence that it only takes one mistake by somebody for the entire field to capitalize.
Now, who do you think we should expect to see getting
I
to
would
that
be-
first obstacle first?
I'd be surprised if VJ's not to the second obstacle first. To the first, we'll see Aaron Newell up there, and we might even see Sean Roberts up there helping to lead the charge.
Do you think that would play well as a strategy for Sean Roberts to try to go out quick and put the pressure on?
I think that when you have the least amount of experience, you have to make up ground on the running. Simply because you have not seen these obstacles before, and you're going to have to make some decisions on the fly, which is inherently slower than having a practiced plan. So if I were Sean, yes, I would be front loading my running for sure.
And the climb, what kind of grade do you think this climb at? Do you think that affects everybody differently, or is it all going to be the same for all these guys?
Well, it starts at that 10% and then moves up to 15, and then you hit 20 plus. And once you get above 20, you're using a very different stride, which really taxes you, especially when you're trying to redline at a 3K pace type. But that actual 10 to 15 is the one that's going to set people up for failure, because it feels like you can just run normally up it because you have so much adrenaline at the start and it's not crazy steep, but it's really, really starting to tax you before you realize it.
And if you look on the screen, we're slowly getting the men coming into the picture now.
It looks like one lead who's got a significant lead here.
Somebody has definitely decided to go out.
And I would think it'd be Aaron Newell. That would be my guess, not being able to see yet who it is. He has the ability to run up mountains as well as anyone, but then he knows that if he can get there first and attack obstacles and start putting time on obstacles, people have to start rushing behind him, and his obstacle ability could keep people from closing the ground ever. But instead, it's Alvaro. Alvaro is up here in first with VJ, and is that Tomas in second and third?
I believe it is.
And then we have Aaron, Hempson, Newell, Jarrett, Sean Roberts going out slowly. And slow is probably a misnomer. You just have some of the best in the world going exceptionally fast. Leon, we knew fitness was going to be a place where he's a little behind right now.
Yeah. He's going to have to take it easy for his condition. He's just not quite there yet.
Ian Hosick bringing up the rear there, which is no real surprise. He's a mountain endurance specialist. This is very much outside of his wheelhouse. And I give him credit for showing up and putting himself on the line like that.
Yeah, I think it was a situation where he was like, I'm very few people have the opportunity to get to this race, and I'm going to take my chance and go.
Yeah. And he's very, very competent. He's going to start out in control. And I mean, as in control as you can be in an 18-minute race. And then he's going to do everything he can to move up. But I think tomorrow certainly is more suited to his skill set than today.
Yeah, you can see him already. Leon was doing a little bit of power hiking there.
As was Sean Roberts.
Yeah.
This surprises me.
It is a good steep grade. And I think from Leon's perspective anyway, that if anything, he's going to take his time early and maybe challenge on that flat stretch after the descent when he see how he's feeling there.
Yeah. For someone like, I guess this entire chase pack here, it really shows the discrepancy in ability uphill. Because on a flat 3K course, the fastest people and the slowest people are going to be within, 5 to 10 seconds of each other per 1,000 meters. However, going uphill, you can lose 20 to 30 seconds in the first 1,000 meters because that hill just really exaggerates the discrepancies in skill or engine.
Yeah. Now, if we can get a camera as close as we can to the confidence climb and gorilla traverse there, that's what they'll be coming up past the hurdle soon.
Yeah, I believe we have a rabbit waiting up here, and it'll be exciting to see the vigor with which they can attack the first set of obstacles, because this was a really, really fast start uphill. We saw some solid athletes at the back of that pack having a power hike early on, which is really almost unheard of in such a short race, which means the people at the top who didn't have to power hike there are either head and shoulders above fitness-wise or have started to dig themselves some serious debt that is going to come due.
And that's what I was just going to ask you is, have we already seen some of these guys that came out that fast already dig themselves too big a hole?
Oh, 100%. That ticket has already been punched. And this is where the advantage of being in a second or third wave lies, that if you're not one of the first few in this heat, you will be closing on or being closed on from that second heat by people who started out more conservatively.
And here we are. We are still seeing a few up front and then a pack.
It looks like Brizolara there coming through. This is the second wave going off, I believe.
All right, here we are.
So if this is truly the lead pack, then VJ Jones has already written his check in his mind. I don't know if you saw his post, but he said if he is leading or within 20 seconds of the lead at the top of the climb, you can write the check already.
I did hear that, and I admire his confidence. I am a little surprised he's taking this a little more conservatively than I expected. And there's Aaron behind him. I believe that was him taking the leap.
But see what happened there? That transition afterwards is a drastic transition. I just don't know how much time there is to be gained with such sagging ropes. If they were more taut, I think it'd be a little different. Already Alvaro there is starting to pay for what he did in the first 400 meters of that climb. He went from first by 20 meters to he's been caught by the back of the pack already. All right, watch Leon go through here. He's decided to do just straight through, but see the time he made up by just being fast hands fast feet through there. He probably made up 6 seconds just by having those crazy quick hands.
Yeah, even when he played it safe, he was still incredibly fast.
Yeah, and that's a skill set that you can't fake. Like, there's only so much you can do for hand speed. You're born with fast twitch or you're not.
So VJ should be heading up towards Skitch now. That'll be the next obstacle he gets to.
And he certainly doesn't look like he's running incredibly fast, but that shows what this terrain's doing to the best in the world. And then if we look back on the next group, you're going to see a difference in stride and realize how fast this man's actually moving right now. And he's one of those strides that never appears as explosively fast as he really is.
And just for perspective, they are already a third of the way through this race distance-wise, and they would be on what would be considered the slowest third of running.
Yeah, and now he's going to open up downhill. And this is, again, the kind of downhill that he's prepared for. No one's been more specific in their training than this man leading up to it. He analyzed the course profile, and he's been doing his intervals at the exact grade of this course for the distances required. So see, he has great grip, and he's staying locked up top too.
Yeah, and you know, surprisingly, he is already not taking chances. He's taking it easy, but there's the pack coming on him now.
Yeah. And this is an obstacle where the dismount is so important, because you have to return your Skitch grips to the beginning of the obstacle. And so it's not just about getting through. You then have to remove the pieces off there, and that's going to hang someone up. Again, in the 15K, it's not going to matter as much. But in this race where seconds count, it is going to matter. And this was a slow start to the obstacle for VJ. This is a time where you're going to see someone who has a little bit more experience move through quicker. He's moving through because he has time to spare. He's going through safely and efficiently, but this certainly is not a fast obstacle.
No, and it's definitely somewhere where it looks like someone could make up time on him. Like if you have an Aaron or somebody who already looks like they are moving a bit faster. You got through it though.
And it's kind of like a traffic jam where you see a car 20 feet ahead and you realize, wow, we've made up time. And then 5 minutes later, you are where they were.
And now he is sending it down that hill.
Yeah, he has the ability to open up and keep his form. He's so strong through his hips that he has the ability to run in control with a long stride downhill. But even there, you see he hit some sketchy terrain.
Yeah, it's still got to be slick from all. Look at that mud. That is just slick.
Now, he's wearing the Salomon Sense Pros here, which I would not say are an aggressive shoe. They're stiffer. They have a bit of a rock plate in them, which is something he was looking for after Asheville, where he felt his feet took too much damage on the descents. But they do not have aggressive tread, and they're going to muck up really quickly, and they aren't the lightest shoe. So if he's encountering more mud than he expected, I mean, if we're looking for any little thing to throw him off, he won't have the traction, tread, or lightness of shoe at the second half of the race that other guys will.
And shout out to our rabbit, Steven. You're having a little camera difficulty, but doing amazing work keeping up to VJ. You got to fix your camera there, Steven. There we go. And just the fact that he can go that quickly down through that. What shoe would have been, as we know, VJ is definitely a Solomon guy. What would have been a better choice for him in that kind of condition?
Well, I can't say better choice because he certainly made his choice intelligently. He's been testing shoes out. This is something he and I were messaging about last week. I knew he was looking at different shoes and I was curious what he was thinking. So he weighed his pros and cons, and you get to a section like this and now it's rewarded. But on a course, I mean, the muddier it is, the bigger the lugs you want, right?
And he should be flying. So he's probably at the 2 kilometer range right now, getting close to it. And he'll be coming up to a crawl soon. So it'll be the Jack's crawl, which will be your classic barbed wire crawl downhill. Do you expect him to do anything different, or will this be a straight crawl technique for him? Would he go with a roll? What do you think is preferred?
My guess is that he's going to do whatever it takes to keep his hands, the palms of his hands, off the ground. I think he'll be happy to give up a little bit of time there to get his breath underneath him, get his hands nice and relaxed, and make sure that he can go smooth and unbroken. Because at this point, all he has to do is not screw up. He's won the race. Now his job is to not lose it.
So when he comes into this bottom section, we expected a lot of risk taking, a lot of chances to be taken on some of the obstacles. Do you think now he's going to tidy it up maybe and just be a little more
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. At this point, it is survive and advance. He can treat this a little bit more like the 15K, where behind him, this is going to be the exciting battle to watch of people skipping through things and taking chances. But that being said, he has an obstacle course in his backyard. His calm and smooth technique through things is still going to be very fast and efficient. He just doesn't have to take crazy risks because he's earned that gap already.
I mean, he's already on 10. This is it. This is the canyon we were wondering.
Now, the rule with touching the ground is what, Dave?
Incidental contact with the grass, with the hay is okay as long as there is no push off.
Incidental contact will happen throughout. You can scrape the grass. You can actually accidentally touch it. You can even contact the ground. But if you receive a push off from it, then that's where you're out of luck and you have to restart the obstacle. And for those watching who aren't familiar with it, all obstacles at OCR World Championships are mandatory and they are able to be retried as many times as you want, but you have to go over to a retry lane.
We just saw Newell Kempson, then we got Sean Roberts. These are all going on the canyon.
So Sean Roberts had to have had a great descent and a good top of the mountain, but Ryan Kempson coming through ahead of Aaron Newell. That is fantastic to see. This is a pack now.
Yeah, well, we said Kempson would be great running through that slob.
Yeah, he really will be.
Hey, Steven, if we can turn your camera sideways there. We're trying to find VJ here, still out there. So, Matt, if we have somebody getting near the urban sky would be great.
No, I like this finish a little more than years past. In the past, there was this big inverted wall that just kind of stuck there at you and you couldn't see what was coming. Here, we're going to be able to see a run up to that cargo net and then that A-frame and then the run afterwards. We're going to be able to see some actual battles happening. Oh, a little bit more mud and muck on course back on this side than I thought we'd see.
Yeah, now this is coming down just through the edge of the village. I believe VG just went over the ramp wall. I believe he should be coming up to Littlefoot soon, if I'm not mistaken.
So this is misery at this point. You've had the huge blow out your legs and lungs climb. You've had a nasty, out of control bomb down to the finish line. But your finish line is still a quarter to half mile away of flat ground running in between obstacles. And all you want to do is dawdle, coming in and out of obstacles and around these sharp turns. But the last thing you can afford to do is dawdle. And so you're finally hitting flat ground running, which is where you really have to force yourself to keep your cadence up and your stride powering at the point where you're the more fatigued than you've been at any point in this race.
And he'll be coming down the stretch here. I think he is probably around that 3K mark because this is just over 3 kilometers, this course. And he should be getting close to urban sky.
Do you foresee any obstacles left that can give a guy like this trouble?
No, especially not with this lead now. If he was neck and neck, I could see him maybe making a mistake on Ricochet as it's new and unseen, and he has not tested it before. But with essentially urban sky, Ricochet left, I can't see VJ unless he makes some catastrophic error having any issue closing that out.
I would really love to see this chase pack come through Ricochet because I generally believe that your longer wingspan helps you on swinging obstacles, but Ricochet seems to be set up in a way that skipping a ring isn't really beneficial. It's all kind of strung out well enough that you flow through it best by using the rings. And in that case, shorter arms and a shorter body might be better at turning using the Ricochet walls to get through.
And here we have VJ going across urban sky. And you'll just see he is just smooth and in control. And he's confident, I think, more now in the dryness of those grips.
Yeah.
Skipping the last apparatus.
Turning and swinging one arm through there means that those wheels are drying off. Because those wheels have some sort of coating that when they bead water up on them, they're very slick. And so you just wouldn't see people doing one arm hand over hand swinging if it was wet. And he's not doing anything crazy through here. He's taking a little reset on every single swing. He's not going quick hands.
We lost Tamara. Stick with VJ if you can. He should be coming over that wall soon.
Now we have people on there right now, but they're age groupers. VJ, when he comes over, is going to flip twice. He won't be just walking backwards down it.
Here we go.
There's flip 1 and flip roll number 2.
And he still needs to push because, like you said, this is time trial. He may have a great lead here, but he still needs to push. You never know what can come in the next wave.
Exactly.
Taking a bit of a celebration.
And he knows that most likely if he crosses the line first, no one's going to be faster than him in the subsequent heats. But at the same time, there's that little bit of nervousness of what's happening behind me.
And we've got Aaron Newell on Ricochet. Ryan Kempson across the line. Is that Ryan Kempson? I believe it is.
Now that is an incredibly impressive performance. He separated himself from the rest of that field. And like I said, he wasn't the one mentioned most. And Sean Roberts across in third, it appears.
Third place, Sean.
Now, again, these are all preliminary. They can all change with later waves, but in all likelihood, those are top three.
That's right. So we have our first 3 people across the line. Now we play the waiting game.
And there's Aaron.
It looked like Tomas was already across as well. Unless he dropped out of the race and wound up at the finish.
You fifth? Where was Aaron? Okay, so who's fourth? Who's third? All right, let's get a quick photo, guys. That guy's third?
And who is that guy, Bracken?
I don't know if it's Thomas or Tomas, but I believe that's Thomas. Tomas, I would assume he's European. So third for him, maybe fourth for Roberts. Fifth Hosick, sixth Aaron Newell. Is that correct?
I believe so. We'll have to get a final from Matt there when he gets a little better connection.
It gets so chaotic around that finish line.
And you recognize that gentleman?
Jarrett Newby coming around.
Now, what about all these other people on the course, Bracken? Do you think that they played into it very much?
I wouldn't think so. I think by the time we got to the technical obstacles, the field was gapped enough. But, I mean, obviously in time trial format, any single time you have to wait for a lane or go around someone, it is not ideal. So I hope it didn't impede anyone. Here's Alvaro.
That's right. Nothing is final right now.
Oh, we got some trust going on here.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if their rules are is strictly laid out.
Well, we got at least 2 trust grabs. We'll see what happens here. Although realistically, with the amount that he dropped off of that first pack and the time he gave up, the next wave will catch his time.
Yeah. You got
Brizolara's in that next one. You'll have Matt Willis. You'll have who else are we having here? Benny Gifford's in there. Several other guys who, if they run clean and run well, will probably beat his time.
So, being as we've seen the top gentleman come through, do you think Ryan has a chance at knocking one of the top 3 off?
Oh, you know what? I do, but with Kempson and Sean Roberts and Tomas, with them all being relatively close to each other, it didn't look like anyone got spit out the back, which means they were all redlining the entire time with no let up because everyone was so close to them. So there's a chance that they pushed each other to a time that won't get caught.
Excellent. Hold on here. So we'll be waiting to see if Matt can get a couple little interviews here. And then we'll be having the women's wave after. And if we were to hash out the women's wave, what do you expect coming from there? Because I expect an epic duel at the front, whereas we had a definitive favorite this time. I expect a great duel.
Well, if the race goes to form according to the men's, Lindsay might have a bigger advantage than we thought. That climb appeared to be more significant in terms of what it did to the field than we maybe thought at the beginning it would do. So there's a real chance that her key to victory is being clear at the top.
And again, we're looking at what appears to be a beautiful sunny day when it was supposed to be downpouring and wet and to favor Ida.
Yeah, that's the great equalizer is gone. And running downhill, Lindsay is fantastic as well. So getting to the top is very key in that she can then continue to keep her foot on the accelerator getting away, and then rely on those two gaps built up to get through consistently through the obstacles rather than having to take any chances, much like we saw with VJ. And I would still say VJ is more of an obstacle specialist than Lindsay. Lindsay is an engine specialist, and she comes in with an engine bigger than maybe any two other women combined in the field. So they need to be in contact in order to take advantage of any weaknesses she may show in obstacles.
No, and again, it looks like I'm not sure if these are the pro women, but we're getting some women to the crowd.
Yeah. There's Rose Wetzel there in the blue and the green. She's someone we haven't talked about yet.
Tamara, can you unmute your mic there? I guess not.
Rose is someone who has all the correct tools on paper to do very, very well here. She's someone I was surprised that she came to this race rather than a different championship, simply because she's been at altitude for so long. But she has the speed, she has now the uphill running, and she is as athletic as anyone in this field. She's been on Ninja Warrior, never super successful there, but these days you don't have to be successful to be good, because the courses at Ninja Warrior are so difficult. So she has all the skills on paper to do well at this race.
Yeah, she's one that definitely her speed could really play in, because I mean she's such a great runner. But I think that the fact that everything is dried out so much has taken away a lot of the advantage that, again, Chris Roglowski and Ida and Amy Panchik would have had. Yeah,
Chris Roglowski is a name to definitely mention. She's just had such a great year. And Chrissy McFarland's another person that they really, really want obstacles to matter today. And they always matter at OCR Worlds. But this climb is so significant that it truly did take away from a bit of the reliance upon obstacles to separate the field. At least at the top. I guarantee that those second through fifth spots are obstacle dependent. But as we saw with VJ, if you are seriously that far ahead of everyone else on your climbing and descending, then your obstacles simply need to be completed.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be as big a deal for huge risks in the women's field. I think it'll be more important just be clean.
Yeah, and I because of the wingspan difference between the men and the women, I don't think that the big risks are going to look like leaps and laches. They're going to look like matching hands versus swinging through. There's just less risk, but there's also less reward with those styles. It's really, really going to come down to that climb and that descent.
Yeah, and I think that, again, we will see, if we see them struggle anywhere, we will see them struggle on Canyon with that low section there. Even though the women are much shorter and compact, for the most part, they're going to be a little more difficult getting across that bottom. Do you think we'll see some interesting styles, maybe some figure fours, maybe some chicken wings?
Yeah, the women's field traditionally uses their legs and their feet a lot more than the men do. Men seem content to power their way through, even if it's less efficient, where the women will throw their leg up over an 8-foot wall or throw their legs up on the box or other obstacles like that. So I anticipate seeing more legs used in this, which like we saw with that one gentleman earlier in the day, can get you through some sections, but then it really means that you have to have a way to transition off your legs when you get to a certain turning point of the obstacle.
Yeah, I think my whole perception of this race has changed without that rain. Now it's completely different day. It's like they threw them onto a new course. Now I find it hard to see anybody having it for Lindsay, knowing that the ground is still sloppy and wet and difficult terrain, and now the obstacles are drying out, and that's just gonna be less important. I really think Lindsay will be tough to beat. Tamara, Sean, if you really could unmute your mic, that would be great.
Yeah, in Ida, the question she has to answer is, what has she done for her uphill game since we've seen her last? Rose Wetzel, what has she done on her downhill technical running since we've seen her last? The one thing the rain has still done to this course is it has chewed up a lot of those descent pieces, where anything that wasn't covered in grass is now pretty sloppy mud. And Rose is not known as a technically proficient downhill bomber.
No, she's more of a flat speed demon.
Yeah, and she can certainly run uphill, but downhill, she's always been a bit cautious. And this is a course where there is no room for being cautious. Oh, that's Igor, not Tomas. Look at that. I apologize, Igor. This entire time I was calling out the wrong athlete.
So while they're announcing the women's heroes to get in through the starting line, let me just throw out some numbers for you. VJ Jones currently sitting in first with a 17:26. Ryan Kempson, 17:53. Igor Brusilov with a 18:03. Sean Roberts, 18:11. Aaron Newell, 18:40. And that's your top five.
That's a fantastically close field.
Yeah, well, I mean, we expected a good race. They delivered.
They really did. And Igor, that is someone who was not mentioned one time throughout the buildup.
No,
but it just goes to show how much we are really, I would say we've been done a disservice by not being able to have the entire European contingent show up. Because this sport of OCR is very much a tale of different time zones, where you have the North American style of OCR, and then you have the European style. And OCR World Championships is very much more in line with the European style course and obstacles. And we would have seen many, many, many more people make a splash, but we're just unable because of pandemic precautions to get over here.
It looks like we're getting just underway. I'm sorry, we don't have the audio right now for the start line.
And no, Scotty, Igor was in the first wave. I misidentified him as Tomas. He was the gentleman in the blue tank top who was at the back of the first wave when they took off.
So if you line up here, you see we have, if we were to introduce, we go from left to right. So in the left in the USA jersey, who do we have there, Bracken?
I'm having a really choppy feed and I can't see her face, but we have Sarah Pagic. We have... I see Chris Roglowski. I see Kelly Sullivan. Two people's faces are frozen on my screen. I can't see them. One I know is Ida because of her height.
Yeah, and we have
Lindsay can't see far left.
Rose beside Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's Chris Roglowski on the far right. And yeah, Ida's easy to pick out. She's we are ready to take off. Who do you expect to take them out?
I think that Lindsay will be taking them out by default. She typically slow plays her climbs. We've seen her even at Savage Race early this year, where she was maybe 5th place, 200 meters in, and then 2 minutes ahead at the top of the climb. So she will be in first at the top of the climb. It's just, does anyone want to challenge her early?
Yeah. Let's see who ends up coming up to the first part there. I think Lindsay did that. You're right. There's no one in that group that will touch her on the climb. Ida, being from Denmark, doesn't have that training that Lindsay does in Quebec and Canada.
Yeah, in their home, They moved, what, a year ago now? Year and a half.
Yeah.
Their home basically sits at the top of a ski hill that's bigger and steeper than this. And so her backyard prepares her for every single mountain course she could ever encounter. And this style of ski slope, it really plays to her strengths because it lulls people to sleep as it just gradually increases the steepness. And by the time that you're 2/3 of the way up, you're realizing, oh my goodness, however fast I started out, I was a little too aggressive because this keeps getting steeper. And she gets better the steeper it goes.
Yeah, the steeper and the muddy, the steeper, the muckier, all that plays into her hand. So do you think that anyone can challenge her on this course then?
For sure. Absolutely. Ida can do it. Yeah, I mean, and you have a couple other women who are all capable of it. I didn't see if Emmy Cross was in that one, but we have several women in here who will not fail an obstacle and can bomb downhills. The question is this first climb too long for any other female to hold on to Lindsay's back?
Well, and the thing about it too is Lindsay, we have seen this year, has had some issues with technical obstacles.
Yes, absolutely.
That could rear its head today. I'm sure she's been preparing very hard for this, but it is possible. As you can see, they're starting to come into picture.
Dave, she's the greatest female athlete we've ever seen in the sport, and she has an argument for greatest female or greatest athlete, period, regardless of gender, that we've ever seen in this sport. So if she loses, it will be a monumental upset. But at the same time, we've seen her at Savage Race struggle on obstacles. And the rain would have been an absolute game changer. But right now, this field seems relatively intact at the top of the field. There are certainly two groups already, but the top is still not a one-woman show.
No, she hasn't broken away. And I would agree with you. I believe she is the greatest of all time, man or woman. I think that she has laid claim to that. We have a question. Is shortness an advantage for Rose compared to Lindsay? Pure speed, isn't Rose better?
I think if they lined up for a flat 3,000 meter run, yeah, Rose is better, but we're going to see what happens here. But look at this. This is the difference in Rose from years past. In years past, she would have been in that second group power hiking.
But we have Rose, Lindsay, and Ida, or Rose, Ida, and Lindsay. It is a great pack. Can you stay with the top three there?
And this course is starting to kick right up.
Stay with the top three, Randall. Thank you.
They're approaching the part here where some of the men started power hiking. And this is where Lindsay, you can see her bump out to the side now to find a little bit better footing on the fringe of that grass. And you can see that this is where she wants to go. Ida has been relegated to third, but Rose is just not the same athlete she used to be. And I mean that in a powerful way. She has just spent 2, 3, 4 years at altitude running mountains. And she is the ultimate, I took that personally, Michael Jordan type attitude, where she has constantly felt written off by the OCR world. And I would assume she's had a VJ-like obsession on coming out and proving how good she is.
Now, when you're seeing them bent over and going to that power hike position, is that a signal that maybe there's a chink in their armor, maybe there's weakness, or is that just a technique that you're going to use for that section?
For a lot of people, that would be a weakness, but in some sections, it's just coaxing the throttle, knowing that I need to smooth this course out as much as possible, and you cannot allow yourself to tip over too early. And so they're strong enough runners to run it, but if they could lose no time or a minuscule amount by switching to something more efficient, just for a stride or two, they're going to do it because they're playing chess up front. And that requires everything to go perfectly.
So it looked like we had Chris Roglowski coming in fourth there.
Yes.
And they're just making their way over the hurdle. So they are probably about 700 to 800 meters into this course.
And here's the difference between the women and the men here is that the men were able to overplay their hand at the beginning. We saw people get out and lead. Whereas in the women's field, in this female side, they've settled into their role and they're not risking a massive blow up. That or they're just not capable of matching those top three up in the front of the race. All right, so they should be coming up to Gorilla soon, correct?
They should be. We'll hopefully get a camera up there. We'll see if Sarah is near them. She's on the descent. Randall, if you can keep making your way up, that'd be great. If we could get someone at the gorilla ropes.
And then anyone who's been passed up the mountain, let's try to get some feedback down on that gauntlet of obstacles. We weren't able to see a ton of the men, and I'd like to see this battle coming through.
Oh, especially through that Pendulum Valkyrie Canyon section.
Yeah, that's something that we got kind of glitched through on the way up. And these women, there's a good chance that we have 3 on those at the same time.
And here we go. We have Lindsay has retaken the lead with Rose in second, and Ida has been dropped a little bit.
And honestly, that's where I thought Ida would be earlier on. But it shows what happens as this course gets steeper and steeper, that Lindsay's skill set becomes more and more apparent. But Rose is running with some tenacity today.
Yeah, she looks like she really wants this.
She's setting herself up for the race of a lifetime or a big, big, big blow up. But this is championship season. There's no need to play it safe. I really like what she's doing. And this is a great matchup because Ida's the type, I think, that would take time on both these women through the obstacles. Because Rose is a powerhouse through obstacles, but she's certainly never the fastest or most efficient. She's just so athletic and powerful. And Lindsay usually isn't the fastest or most efficient either. So these two kind of get to match strengths with each other through obstacles.
Yeah, and Sarah, just stay with Lindsay and Rose. Now, they're going to be going into the downhill section soon. Will that aid Rose in keeping up with Lindsay, or will that still be to Lindsay's strength with the technical section?
In this section right here, when we see gravel, when we are on access roads, this aids Rose because she can use her running acumen to attack. And she is an attacker. You're going to see her, if this feed clears up, she's going to be pumping her arms and attacking. But once we start touching grass, that signifies a steeper hill and it signifies more technicality. And I think that there may be only 1 or 2 females in the entire world of OCR that have a chance of matching Lindsay on technical downhills. And neither of them live in the US.
Now, we're going to be coming up to Skitch really soon. And this is an obstacle we have seen Lindsay have trouble with in the past. Now, being as it's dried out, I think she's going to be okay. And it's early on. But if Rose could make a move there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an obstacle that you can make it through with still losing a lot of time because you can stall out at the transition point. So if I'm Ida, I'm trying not to be dismayed at this point. I'm thinking there are still a lot of obstacles waiting ahead of me where I'm going to eat into the lead. Yeah, and Rose, look at this. Look at the difference in arm carriage between these two women. Rose is just such an aggressive runner, and she is really going to hit it hard on these transitions in order to make up any time she loses in between.
And they are essentially neck and neck. She made up a good amount of ground there.
Oh, and Lindsay through. That was a good fast obstacle. And Rose, this is one of the issues for Rose. I love Rose, good friend of mine, but she has been known to take time before starting obstacles.
Little thing right there, though. Did you see how Rose dismounted Skitch?
And that's another one of those things where I think her dismounts and starting off of her run, her transitions out of obstacles are as good as anyone in the sport. She's so aggressive and efficient at that stage. It's mounting the obstacle where Lindsay might take a little time. But like Lindsay went to the wrong side there. Did you see that?
I did. She gave up a little time there, and this is somewhere where Rose could make up ground.
So Lindsay's on, Rose is on. Good. Rose wasted no time on that, on the entrance to that obstacle. And Lindsay, that little tiny slip up, suddenly she's lost her lead. And this is a spot where Rose is clearly the more powerful athlete. If there's a chance to kind of muscle her way through some transitions quicker, she could come off this obstacle one step ahead of Lindsay.
And it looks like she has taken the lead a little bit. Would you have selected to go side by side, or would you have given yourself some space?
I think she made the right call simply because she didn't have to move 3 feet further up the obstacle. But when I'm turning sideways, and it just seemed, I would personally want more space in between, but she obviously did the right thing.
So again, we've had Rose take the lead over Lindsay Webster. And we still have Ida in third. They're working their way down to that barbed wire crawl.
And what we said is that someone has to be in contact with Lindsay at the top. And Rose managed to do what really no one gave her credit for all build up for being able to do. And she did so. And then she re-raised her through that first set of obstacles. Lindsay obviously has the better descending, but I mean, we would have said she had significantly better climbing too, and Rose held with her.
Yeah. She did a great job on that climb, and to come out ahead in the descent, I did not see that coming.
And this is another obstacle down here where I would anticipate Rose being slightly faster through rings than Lindsay would be. Not that Lindsay has a weakness there, but Rose is just, she carries, if you even look at her, she has a very muscular upper body. And the ability to lock off and move fast, certainly that power is driven from your back and from your biceps. And she just has more power through there than Lindsay. So a few of these obstacles, if she's able to maintain on this descent, she has ability to chip back into the race.
And now if we get down to this, I don't think this crawl is long enough to really give either athlete an advantage. Do you?
It's a rhythm breaker. What it is, though, is it's a little gas tank dagger. If you go into it and you don't breathe your way through it, you come out, because it is so short, there's a chance you hold your breath through it. And now you're really gassed. And there's a chance you're slow getting down and getting up. And Rose, we've seen her in the past with some downhill barbed wire trouble. And does she approach it a little more thoughtfully? We'll see.
And I think that
switch to Randall's camera.
There we go. And who do we have there, Randall? Is that Lindsay retaking the lead over Rose?
And Rose is right on her heels. I'm going to try and hang in with Lindsay.
All right, great job.
This, to me, is a win for Rose. Because this was, I would say, the biggest advantage Lindsay had remaining in the race was this technical descent. And we're at 4 seconds, maybe?
Yeah, it's not that much, 4 or 5.
5 seconds. If Rose can take back a half second on the obstacle and a half second out of each obstacle, she's only 4 or 5 obstacles away from being right back tied. And she's doing little things there. The way she leaped over that little gap there. You don't do those things when you're trashed. She's still in this race.
Oh yeah, this is. Here we go.
5 seconds.
Lindsay doing that straight arm technique.
Maybe 6 seconds.
Rose definitely more powerful.
Well, she is, but she's not skipping with it. Here we go.
She skipped one there.
About the same gap.
Let's get on to Lindsay there, Randall.
Uh-oh. She didn't touch the top, so she has to go back to the top because she skipped that ring.
Randall, go back to Lindsay there.
So that's devastating. So that rule of you must touch the apex of the obstacle just absolutely blew up Rose's race. It's not over by any means, but she just had to expend a whole nother obstacle's worth of energy just to complete an obstacle she had already completed. But she's still moving fast.
Here's Lindsay coming up the other side. She completed the canyon. Rose right behind her. Stay on Rose.
So Chris Rogolowski coming here in third. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Chris is in fourth right now.
In fourth. Chris is in fourth.
Oh, Ida, of course.
Rose coming up the other side of canyon.
So Rose is now a full 30 to 40 seconds in behind, and that's quickly getting to the insurmountable without obstacle failure stage.
And I would believe Lindsay probably through the obstacles that we would have thought could have caused her an issue. Stay with Rose there.
I'm going to jump ahead to the end.
Excellent.
To the end over there.
Now Rose is still running
we got
hard.
Ida in third, guys. I don't know if you saw that. Ida was right behind. Ida was entering that obstacle as Rose was finishing.
Okay.
Rose ran that next stretch very aggressively, so she's not trashed yet, but she's beginning to have a little bit of stagnation towards the end of obstacles. Starting to slow down a bit on those rigs, which how can you not at this point of a race that you've been redlining that long? But it's really, really unfortunate that she hit that penalty.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was right there. Now it looks like Ida will be fighting for that second spot with Ida.
They're both right here.
Lindsay threw that through Littlefoot nice and clean. And stay with her, Sarah. So do you think there's anywhere other than maybe Urban Sky where the other ladies have a chance to catch up to Lindsay now?
Well, always. It's still an OCR race. We don't know what her body's feeling like right now. You know, she's made it through everything, but is her grip suddenly gone? Did she slip a place back there and touch some mud that we didn't see? You know, I doubt it. I doubt it's going to happen, but it's still really only one retry away from everyone being back together.
There we have it. Ida has passed Rose.
So
Ida
Rose
has passed Rose.
Has to have had a retry somewhere. Oh, and I'm just gutted for Rose. She had the exact race going that she needed to have. And it's just hard to see that happen. Now, if she was aware of the rule, obviously that's on her. But to get caught on a technicality, she lost this race without it being a result of fitness. And that's always frustrating as an athlete. It's one thing to get beat. It's another thing to beat yourself.
Was that Lindsay just coming off Urban Sky there?
No, that's someone else waiting for
Okay,
Lindsay.
okay.
It's an age group athlete. But for a second there, they looked familiar enough.
Yeah.
Scott Lerg saying Chris Roglowski is stuck on that one that Rose had to repeat.
So she would be stuck on on Valkyrie.
Valkyrie, correct. So Ida's still moving up strong. Rose, we hope, is able to hang on and maintain for a third place position. You can tell what this first climb has cost these athletes, though.
Oh,
got Lindsay over here. Urban Sky.
There you go. She's looking smooth. Maybe lost a little bit of momentum there, but again, that dryness should be fine.
Yeah, and she's back. She's up to where VJ was, where she doesn't have to do anything spectacular at this point. She just has to not fail.
You have to ask Randall to do the impossible and stay with Lindsay.
And this is a tough one for the women. This is a tough little transition.
That is a long reach.
Yeah, she was fully out to full capacity on that gap. This will be another large gap here. You get that sharp, jarring snap when you catch that ring.
You got it, Lindsay.
Stay with her, Randall.
Was she talking there?
Yeah. She's, of course, thanking everyone, as she does.
Rose caught Ida. That's what I was
Rose
saying.
caught back up to Ida. This is fantastic.
Oh.
We're going to see a battle here. And you don't want any part of Rose at the end of the race. Like we talked about Lindsay's biggest strength remaining being her downhill.
We got Lindsay coming to the finish, guys.
There's no one as tenacious as Rose at the end of a race. You saw how she dismounted that obstacle and just took off. You just don't want Rose next to you with less than a minute of racing to go.
All right. Got it, crushing it.
Stretch it in.
There comes Lindsay.
So Lindsay does what Lindsay does. But now we have Rose versus Ida. And without any technicality left, I don't think there's anyone on. Oh, I forget about this obstacle. Right as I go to say it, Ida's going to make a move. And Rose has one attempt here. She's got one attempt to catch this nest ring or it's over.
Emily, you stay with them as best you can. Ida comes off just ahead. Is there enough time for Rose to catch her on that run?
No, there's not. There's enough time for her to catch her on the run and the net and the run, but only if Ida struggles or falls through here a little bit. Which she...
Let's go, Ida. Let's go, girl.
Oh, unfortunately, it is too little too late for Rose. That one hang-up on Ricochet was too much.
Let's go, Ida.
And just how costly, again, was that repeat on Valkyrie?
So costly. But the fact that she ran her way back into it is phenomenal. To get past with 600 meters left and then to repass with 200 meters left is that's huge.
And Rose needs to remember right now to finish strong because this is still time trial.
Wow. You know what? Despite taking third, I'm going to say performance of the day goes to Rose. She had Lindsay on the verge there and still hung on for third after some really unfortunate failure over there at Valkyrie.
Oh, and not even a failure. I mean, that was like just a hiccup and an unfamiliarity with the rule. Now that my question will become how, hopefully these athletes were briefed prior or had been able to find that rule prior to the race so that was common knowledge.
Yeah, I really hope they were told at the start line.
And
at the athlete briefing, I'm sure they were told.
What did you be? I thought it'd be like.
I'm at Urban Sky with 4th and 5th place.
You guys just catch your breath.
Reading every rule like said.
What's that?
We can go dive.
I have Julie and Chris in 4th and 5th place.
Yeah,
you're
awesome.
Amazing.
Chris Riglowski.
Stay on Rose, stay on Rose. I was staying on her.
And that's Chris Riglowski, so she's in
5th, and I believe just ahead of her was Amy.
Was Amy Panchik.
I believe so, unless I saw that incorrectly.
And if that is the case, that is a great run for Amy because she was more one that I would have figured would fare better in the rain.
Yeah. Chris has to be at the end of her energy. That woman has raced more kilometers and miles and hours this year than any person I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, she just keeps putting race after race after race, and of every discipline and length, every week something different.
Ultra, and then Deca, and then Ultra, and then something else. It's wild the amount of racing she has done across the full spectrum.
So for times here, we have Lindsay with a 20:51, Ida with a 21:46, and Rose with a 22:03.
Yeah, not quite the density in the female field for the top 5 runners all being within, X amount of time that we saw in the men's, but such an incredible battle up front. More drama in this race.
Oh, I thought it was a fantastic race. I mean, it wasn't the race we exactly thought with Rose taking it out and coming up to the top of the climb ahead and heading down the hill before Lindsay. That wasn't expected, but wow, it did play out fantastic.
You know what? She made it a race. Lindsay may have won, but Rose made that race.
We got you, Matt.
So Ida's just hurting. I mean, I think she's okay, but she's just hurting. And there's Chrissy.
Chrissy and she looked hurting.
Chris pushed off a stunt.
Did anybody say anything? Anybody say anything? No, I'm not.
You got a cable?
It's done now, so we'll talk before we do the 15. Yeah,
I'm at 6%, so.
Okay.
All right, Matt, you want us to wind it out? Will you guys all get recharged?
Yeah, wind it up, and then let's the 3 of us chat in about 10 minutes. All right, great job.
So there we go, Bracken. For the men's 3K, it looks like we have VJ, Kempson, Igor, Sean Roberts, Aaron Newell, Ian Hosick, Leon Anderson, Jarrett Newby, Alvaro Vasquez, and Benny Gifford. Any surprises there? Anything that jumps out at you?
First of all, Leon's last name is not what I thought it was. I thought it was Kofel.
I think that's a different Leon.
A different Leon. We have
we'll
two
see. I don't
Leons
know.
in the
We'll
fold.
catch on that if it's Leon or not. But
look at that. Yeah, I guess the fact two things really impressed me.
Yeah.
First of all, that Alvaro hung on after running the most audacious first half mile of anyone here. Second is that Jared Newby punched above his weight today. The wily old vet hung on for 8th place, despite having just really a field of all people that people would assume are faster around him. Benny Gifford snagging 10th, but the name that's missing, Brizzalara. I'm interested to hear what happened there.
The other thing I will tell you that we're looking through the results, I cannot find any other Leon, so we're going to assume that is Leon Kofed, despite being listed as Leon Anderson. Some more updates of the women here for right now. Like I said, Rose with a 22:03, Chris Roglowski at 24:36, Julie Harters 24:53, and Chrissy McFarland at 25:08.
You know what's crazy is that is a typical position finish at some of these regional races, a Savage, something like that. And these women came through at the World Championship and held their placing. That's a pretty incredible performance.
Yeah, it is a great performance. And I think you're right. Benny Gifford, I think, is going to be happy with a 10th place snag there.
He really should be. If you look at all the people ahead of him, I would say that he has the least amount of running speed in that field. So he was that's a fantastic performance for what he brought to the table versus, I mean, if you look at a Sean Roberts or Alvaro, those people are legitimately fast. Ian Hosick has been top 5 at World Championships. That's a solid finish.
Just for an update, Ryan Brizzalara, he's sitting in 13th right now with a 22:33.
Okay. And Igor, that's the man I want to talk to. If we get a chance, we need to find out some more about what if he came in expecting this type of finish.
Yeah, I be honest, was not prepared from him. I had not heard much about him, and he definitely showed up.
That's why we have to run the race, right? Can't give the results away based on where you sit on paper.
No, it's not written on paper. The races run on the course. Well, anything else that caught you by surprise? I was actually impressed. Really, Amy Panchik. We didn't get to see her a lot, but coming in that position when I would have considered her more of a, rough course obstacle proficient woman, but she came in and ran a good race. So
I would say she kicked farther ahead of her coverage than anyone else in this race. She has the highest finish compared to probably what the predicted finish was. So yeah, maybe MVP of the day I'd split between her, Rose, and Igor. And that does nothing to take away from what our two champions did. VJ and Lindsay did exactly what they were supposed to do. And unfortunately, they're so good that a bit of the glitz and the glam is lost because they've been here before. So this takes nothing away from pure dominance, which is what we saw there. But Rose was almost there to play spoiler. Igor had an incredible performance, and Amy really just shocked everyone.
So Lindsay ended up 10th overall, so she would have been 10th on the men's side.
Oh, so she knocked poor little Benny off the top 10.
Ahead of Benny. Yeah, she would have knocked Benny out of the top 10. Were we foolish to even think that there was a weakness and she maybe could have been had today?
I think it's disrespectful to even say that there's a chance she could lose, because what else does she have to prove? But at the same time, I think Rose proved everything correct. Rose was there. And would she have pulled away at the end from Rose? Would Lindsay have pulled away anyway? Maybe. Can you bet against the world champ? No. But Rose was there, and she was pressing the issue, and she had made up time on that obstacle right up into the point where she had to restart it.
Well, I can tell you this. My bracket is safe. It came out the way I wanted, so I'm very happy about that.
And you know, Thomas makes a great point. We had 2 men in that field who are coming off of leg surgery, and they both finished top 10. And that getting back on the course is a huge round of applause for those 2 men. And the fact that they finished so well speaks to how seriously they took their rehab.
Yeah, Leon amazed me. I didn't think he would have. I thought Leon would go out there and just do a nice, safe race. And no, he put out a good showing. Like, to come in 7th, that's fantastic. I'm very impressed.
It really is.
Well, Bracken, I think that's enough for us for today. We got a big day tomorrow, 15K, early morning. So everybody be prepared and tune in to the OCRWC YouTube channel. Again, it'll be Obstacle Racing Media presenting you the coverage. So to everybody out there, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to all our rabbits, everybody that helped out, Bracken and Dario, our producer, the man behind the scene. Thank you all. Great job. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
Get some sleep, rest up, and we'll do it again.